Trump's pick to lead the Department of Education made it clear at her confirmation hearing she wants to overhaul the public education system, putting parents and students before the teachers' unions, bureaucrats, and the consultant class. Joining us now to discuss this is Professor of Political Science at Suffolk College in New York and Campus Reform's Higher Education Fellow Professor, Nicholas Giordano. Good morning to you. Last Thursday, Jen. Linda McMahon did testify in that contentious Senate confirmation hearing. What were some of your biggest takeaways from that?
Well, the biggest takeaway, I think, is that she's talking about accountability. I don't think there's a single person out there that could argue our education system is succeeding. I mean, student proficiency levels are at all-time lows. Students can't read or write at grade level. Higher education is failing. And so she's talking about bringing accountability back into the system by promoting things like core subject areas over ideologically driven curricula. So that's an important step. And I do think that some Democrats were receptive to what she was saying. This is an agency that has long escaped accountability, and now she's talking about bringing accountability to an agency that gets $80 billion tax dollars a year.
Yeah. To your point, Professor, the pandemic and school closures really became this kind of great awakening for parents because for the past 30 years, parents took this hands-off approach to public education. You said what parents realized was that their kids are not being educated, but rather indoctrinated with a far-left political woke agenda. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, particularly with the last administration, we had an education secretary, Miguel Cardona, that was actually hostile to parents and institutions of faith. So he colluded with the National School Boards Association to get the Department of Justice to investigate parents at school board meetings under the Patriot Act. And then he targeted Christian universities. At Campus Reform, we've reported how over 70% of the fines on higher education institutions went to Christian universities, and the fines were 3 times higher than those leveled at private institutions of non-faith. So it was a hostile environment, and you had a Department of Education that funded local school districts $5 million tax dollars to push a 1619 project curricula throughout the schools, even though 1619 has been debunked by both scholars on the right or left. So it was about ideology and not actually educating the student body.
DOJ has begun to uncover some of the billions of dollars of waste in the U.S. Department of Education. Give us some more examples.
Well, if DOJ goes to campusreform.org, they have a lot to work with because we've reported out how CUNY has spent $19 million building an equity center. You have NASA, the space exploration, spending $7 million going to higher education institutions, not to promote space exploration, but to promote diversity. It doesn't make any sense. $101 million going to counseling courses on whiteness and anti-racism and microaggressions, over $1 billion by the Department of Education alone on DEI in school districts around the country. So you see, it's not like we're talking about a few $1,000s. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars over the last few years that has flowed to schools, not for the primary purpose of education, which is what we need to get back to.
What needs to be done to fix this problem with our failing schools? As you mentioned, why aren't we holding them accountable? How would you advise Linda McMahon if she's confirmed?
Well, first, I would tell her that the tax dollars should follow the student as opposed to schools. If schools are failing, students and parents should not be held hostage by their zip code. They should be able to send their kids to school that are succeeding. And I want to see the public education system succeed. So this means public schools in neighboring districts. But if schools are failing, they need to be held accountable. They need to be penalized. More importantly, we need to get back to teaching the core subject areas. We are at all-time lows in just about every subject. And a lot of it has to do with the ideologically driven curriculums that have distracted students from learning and infused politics within the system. Get back to the idea of American government and what it stands for and how it actually operates. Get back to basic mathematics and reading and writing. And we could turn the tide in an education system that has failed the American people for over 2 decades.
Professor Nicholas Giordano, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.